Hey, I'm Shaye Wanner, and you are listening to the Casual Cattle Conversations podcast. Whether you are a seasoned rancher or just curious about the cattle world, this podcast dives into the stories, science, and strategies shaping the future of ranching. Let's get started and keep your herd ahead of the herd. Today, we are visiting with Marty Ropp about how commercial cow-calf producers can more accurately and confidently buy bulls that move their programs forward using the right bull program. Marty is the founder and managing partner of Allied Genetic Resources, LLC, and All Beef. They offered the first precision genomic mating technology in 2018, which was created by Dr. Marty Ropp at Top Genomics, LLC. When I say this conversation is focused on how the commercial cattlemen can reach their profit and performance goals faster, I mean it, and I know you're going to enjoy this conversation and get so much out of it. With that, let's visit with Marty.
Calling all ranchers. If you are looking for a better way to optimize your grazing operation and rev up your bottom line, Noble Research Institute can help. Noble's team of ranch managers and researchers work together to find solutions to your challenges. They don't just give you answers, they can help you understand how to apply their research-tested and field-proven principles on your ranch. Visit noble.org to learn more and browse Noble's educational resources.
Well, Marty, welcome back to the podcast. It's been year and a half, maybe 2 years since I've had you on, so it's good to visit with you again. And to get started, I would really like to hear why you bet on the beef industry, because you are very involved in the industry itself.
Yeah, thanks, Shaye. It's good to get a chance to visit again with you. We talked about this a second ago, but that is kind of a hard opener to start off with. I guess there's several things. And first of all, I've been in the ag business and the livestock business since I was a kid. So part of it is once you get programmed into that, through a life spent, trying to do the right thing in the ag business, you migrate, you move, you make this turn to the left and that turn to the right, and you end up where you want to be and where you feel like it's important. The beef business is a huge part of the food business, not just in the United States, but in the world. I believe in the profitability of the beef business long term and the potential there, particularly if we tweak some things and add some different emphasis and some different kind of thought process as we streamline supply chains and ultimately beef all the way to consumers. I just think there's a lot of potential in the beef business. We're enjoying some great times now, and I think we need to put together plans during good times to make sure that those good times last as long as they can.
Absolutely, and I enjoyed that response, and there's a few things for all of us to think through in there as well as beef producers. So, Marty, today you and I are going to be visiting about genetics, but we're specifically going to be talking about how that commercial cow-calf producer can take some risk out of selecting bulls so that they can pick the right bull, which we will also be talking about the program Right Bull and how that plays a part in that. So to kick off that part of the conversation, what would you say the biggest risks and opportunities commercial cow-calf producers face when they select bulls each year?
I think we can back all the way back up to maybe even a question about the use of the bulls, and then I'll move a little more into some of the technology aspects. But one of the first risks that you can have is to select what you think is a great bull, what you think is the right bull, or what your seed stock provider says that this bull's a great bull, and not really have any definition for that. Instead of choosing a bull based on how you plan to use them, what traits that you absolutely need from that bull, whether it's more growth or more maternal traits, long-term kind of things like maternal traits, or whether it's, again, short-term terminal kind of decisions, or whether it's a heifer bull. That's the first risk, I think, is not well defining what you're after, and instead just going and picking what you think is a good bull. The opportunity comes, particularly as you begin to define that a little bit more tightly, and then use some new technologies, in this case we're going to talk about Right Bull, to try to really precision mate. Make as precise a decision as you can for the bull or bulls that not just fit your goals, but also match your cows. Match your cows from a genomic standpoint, from a reduction of inbreeding, all the things that are really, really important in that bull decision that we've not had a good chance to take advantage of in the past, because the idea of precision mating cows has been only talked about by seed stock providers, and maybe even not as precise as they could be.
So you brought up a couple times, you said, define what you are after, define your goals, define what you need. How can commercial producers truly define what they need or accurately know what they need for their cow herd?
Well, what we do in our particular program is we actually interview them. We visit with them and we ask them about the things that are important to them. We ask them about the horizon that they think is important for their bull buying decisions. Is this something that you're trying to fix something, or you're trying to move forward fast for a single trade in a short period of time? Or is your horizon based on we're going to be in the cow-calf business for the foreseeable future, and so we have to have a little bit of everything? Or can we sort our cows and have part of our cows that are focused on the long term and part of our cows that are focused on short term income and profit? So we have that conversation up front so that when we use the right bull technology, it's as well suited to your specific program and your specific breeding objectives as it possibly can be. And I think that's the best way to start and the best way to help define that.
So can you walk me through what that right bull process looks like so that we have a better understanding of how it's helping producers make more confident decisions?
Sure, and I'll outline it just a little bit for you if I think that's what you're asking for. It makes good sense to me. We work with Top Genomics. I've been working with Top Genomics since 2018, primarily on seed stock decision making, precision mating for seed stock herds, which is very much one bull, one cow, and being as precise as you can to help match those matings, again, genomically, reduction of inbreeding, maximizing the effects that you want to have from, again, a breeding objective perspective, and doing it cow by cow. But we realize that in the commercial cow-calf business, although there's certainly some AI, and we can do precision matings in AI situations, a little different, again, from a thought process than seed stock. But for commercial herds and all the way through much of the beef industry, we're talking about groups. Commercial producers manage cows in groups. They try to minimize some of the labor requirements and facility requirements and data keeping requirements and all that are hallmarks of the seed stock business. So they need technologies that help them make decisions for groups. So what we do is we use the genotypes of the females that are created by either by sampling the entire cow herd or perhaps just a quarter of them from a sample, just a sample perspective, and we build a composite genotype. And says that if all of your cows were this cow, what bull from a large effect gene perspective and from a strength and weakness genomically, what bull in a sale offering or in a group that you're looking at, what bull matches that cow the best? And we can do that based on a single mob of cows. We can do that based on a whole herd of cows. Again, we do some projects where we split the herd and form a maternal multiplier herd and a terminal herd in the same situation. And then run bulls separately. But again, matching the large effect genes, reducing the variability that comes in a calf crop, reducing the probability or possibility of wasted matings by characterizing what you've done in the past and where you want to be in the future genomically. Not just from an EPD standpoint or not just from an individual trait standpoint, but does this bull match my cow herd genomically? And does he help me reduce inbreeding, which is something we don't talk about that much in commercial cow-calf business, but inbreeding is the enemy of commercial cow-calf business. Part of the reason crossbreeding and things like that works so well. But can we get all of that and build a decision-making tool that helps us go to our seed stock provider, who we've chosen for lots of reasons, because we believe in what they do, because they provide great service, because they're honest about their data and fair in their representation of cattle, whatever is the reason we picked that particular herd. Then we go in and take a deep dive into the bulls that are available and rank those bulls based on how they fit genomically with your cows, how they fit your breeding objectives, and how they help you reduce the negative effects of inbreeding in your commercial herd.
Okay, so as a commercial producer, say myself, if my husband and I wanted to do this, then we would have to tell you we specifically want to check bulls from these specific seed stock suppliers. Like the seed stock suppliers have to be on board with it as well. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we have to have access to the genotypes, both of the seed stock, both of the bulls that are available. And again, at least a sample of your cow herd, if not all of it. And those are raw genotypes, not necessarily just genotypic scores, that are pretty popular. But they need to be the raw genotypes so that Dr. Saatchi and Tate can evaluate them, gene by gene, particularly for the large effect genes, and then look at the overall picture, the genomic picture and the genomic complementarity that we can put the two together. We do not pit seed stock sources against each other. The first choice bull in each herd will be a 100% match. That could be more than one bull. But you make the choice of the seed stock source that you'd like, and then we help you sort through that group of potential sires and rank those bulls in a fashion that'll help you the most. Again, based on what you want and based on the genomic complementarity that's available there. And you might be surprised. It might be lot 94, might be the first bull, or lot 161. But you'll get a list of those bulls ranked, again, up against 100% is the maximum. And any bulls that are over 80 or 90% matched to your herd are really, really nice, safe choices for the fewest wasted matings you could have.
Marketing your calves each year doesn't have to be a guessing game or settling for the easiest option. Join me this August for a 4-week online calf marketing short course that walks ranchers through what makes calves more valuable, what marketing options are available, and how they can manage risk best for their operation. Most importantly, ranchers will leave this series with a plan and newfound confidence to market their calves for their true value for years to come. Register by July 28th using the link in the show notes. So you've brought up large effect gene a couple times, and do you just want to define what that is, just in case there's listeners out there who aren't fully familiar with that terminology?
Yeah, it's technology that's been around and certainly gets used in other species more than it does in the beef industry until just recently. But there are some genes, simple, we call it as simple as it could be. There are some genes that have a large effect, and some of them have a very, very large effect. An easy example would be a genetic defect. In the case of a genetic defect, if you make two heterozygotes together and you get the lethal combination, the calf is dead or the pregnancy is terminated. That is a really, really large effect. And that's not particularly what we're talking about, although you can use this technology to help minimize that as well. But there are other genes that still have a large effect, but are subclinical. They don't actually cause that kind of a problem, but they might cause extreme birth weight. So they might cause to make cattle that don't grow well or that aren't as good for carcass traits. And then in some of the maternal evaluations that they've done, there are some genes that help improve stability a lot. So for those large effect genes, we want to minimize the number of little b's, the recessive combination for genes that have a large effect. And then we go ahead and Dr. Saatchi and Tate go ahead and evaluate all the other factors that are available, including the EPDs on the bulls, and help rank, first of all, bulls that will be the most complementary, and then bulls that move you in the direction you want to the fastest.
So, Marty, would you mind sharing kind of an example of what some results look like so that those listeners who are on YouTube, or maybe they're on the audio form and they can go onto the YouTube platform and see this, just so they know what it looks like to see which bulls would match, which ones maybe wouldn't, and just better understand how to read this and what information is available to them?
Sure. Actually, we've got a slide here that shows a sample of the results that you might get. This can be customized a little bit, and this is just part of a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet goes on out to the right with more information on it. But in this particular case, this was a small group of bulls, about an 80-head bull sale. A commercial herd said, would you run the genomics of our cow herd against these bulls, because we need to pick a couple of cow bulls. We talked about their goals. And ultimately, in this case, Dr. Saatchi ran this, but he ran those bulls against their commercial cows. And the 100% match, the best match, considering genomic, again, the large effect genes, the breeding objectives of that particular herd, and for this choice of bull, and the reduction of inbreeding, was lot 6. Lot 6. His name just happened to be Cannonball, which I made these up in case you can't tell. But his name just happened to be Cannonball. He's the number one match. And it is, as you look through there's about 8 or 9 bulls that are up 84, 85% or higher. There's some half-brothers in there. There's some bulls that really aren't related in there. And even in this particular case, since these happen to be purebred Sim and Sim Angus composite bulls, there's some choices of purebred bulls and some choices of composite bulls that both fit this herd very, very nicely. And a little bit more information about the bulls off to the right, as you see. The converse of that, if you look down at the bottom, there were 2 bulls, lot 17 and lot 57, that were horrendous choices for this particular herd. These bulls did not meet the compatibility standards. They didn't meet the breeding objectives, or any of the things that you'd like to have. And worst case scenario is you go in and you say, lot 17, he's gorgeous. He's got great feet, and he's super gentle, and he's exactly what I want physically. You buy the bull, you're happy, but in the long term, he ends up costing you substantially more money than you could possibly. You can't buy that bull cheap enough because he's just such a marginal choice for matching with your particular set of commercial cows, even though Maybe in another individual's herd, maybe that bull ranks in the 70s or 80s based on different objectives and different past decisions. In fact, just move here to another slide real quick. This is a real example of a set of bulls that sold in Montana last year. So, as I said, different bulls will rank differently in different herds, but again, based on all the things that you'd like to have. And this is an actual result last year from a large commercial bull sale in Montana, where 2 of these were commercials, and one of them actually was a seed stock herd that asked us to run a right bull for their particular objectives as well. And you can see, even though there's some overlap, like the number 5 bull happens to show up in the positive side of all 3 herds. A couple of other bulls show up in 2 decisions, and then a myriad of bulls show up in only 1 herd. And again, that's based on past decisions and what you're actually after. The bull 141, who's the number 1 choice for the first, in this case, commercial herd, doesn't show up in any of the rest of them. And so, kind of the fear that this program will generate results that make everybody look at 1 bull just isn't really the case at all. And it ends up helping people make better decisions and really customizing their decisions based on the things that they have to have, and based on their doing what's best for those particular herds long term from a profitability perspective.
Well, all that's really interesting, and I like this slide where it's showing how some overlap, and like you just said, some don't at all, because it's so precise and individualized for each specific herd or group of cows within a herd. So, Marty, this is not the first genomics program to be available to commercial cow-calf producers, but it is different. So what would you say makes it different, or what are those key differences from other genetic programs that are available to the commercial producer today?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shaye. And I think a couple of things. First of all of the programs that we try to work on the genomic side of our allied genetic resources business have to do with helping producers get more value from technology that they're already using or that they're interested in investing in. So you can get a base amount of value by doing the genotyping. You can add to that as many different levels as you like to, but this program really takes that investment and spreads it out into the next generation. There are lots of options for trying to make cows to the right bulls, but this particular one takes into account the genomics and the genetics of the cow and your purpose for doing those things, and the genomic inbreeding, not just the registration paper inbreeding, but actually the genomic, how similar they are genomically, and helps you make the best decision moving forward. So it's a future-focused kind of a decision-making tool versus just a selection tool, which we can do those kind of things too, but this is about matching sires and dams genomically to reduce variation and help move genetic improvement forward for the things you'd like as fast as they possibly can. I think that makes this difference. It's a decision-making tool. The decisions are delivered to you. Then you can take and use your own judgment. On that list a couple of slides ago, if you like the 5th bull on that list and he's perfect for you, he's a very high-ranking bull, and that's a great choice. And if you don't like the 1st bull because he's too tame, too quiet for you, that doesn't happen very often, but you don't have to pick that bull. You still have to make the decisions, but this gives you a lot of confidence that you're going to make decisions that are going to move you forward for lots and lots of different things. And I think the uniformity thing is one thing that is truly unique as well. There just aren't programs out there that say, hey, we can help make your calf crop more uniform, or in fact, we can help make the beef industry more uniform by doing what's right from a genomic mating perspective, a precision mating perspective.
So what are the upfront costs producers can expect from this, especially if they've done no prior genotyping on any of their cow herds, or on their cow herd or any of their cows?
Sure. The cost of genotyping is fairly set, and that depends a little bit on who you're going through. If you're going through an association, or if you're doing it yourself through your representative, most of them are either through Gene Seek or Zoetis. That's fairly typical for producers to do that, and they do have the option of genotyping their entire cow herd. I don't want to speak exactly to the pricing structures of the different companies, but you can find those out from us, or individually you can find that out from them. But again, a lot of herds have decided we're just going to do 25%. And so the cost is 25% of what that was. Use the tissue sampling, the TSU technology to make it simple, and sample 25%. We suggest the younger cows, just because that information will be valuable for more years. and then potentially going ahead and sampling another percentage of them the following year and moving forward. So the genotyping cost is the first cost, and it's the largest cost. After that, the right bull technology, currently we've got that price for commercial producers at $300 per decision. And that doesn't matter if it's one bull or 21 bulls that you're looking at to purchase from a particular herd. If you say this is the set of cows we'd like evaluated and we'd like it evaluated against that set of bulls, that's $300. That's the cost of doing a right bull evaluation. If you want to split those into heifers and cows, then it becomes $300 per decision. But relatively cheap, about just a little more than one bid at most bull sales in order to gain some extra confidence. And so there is some upfront cost in genotyping. We think that's a great investment in the future, and commercial herds need to be doing the genotyping things it takes. We just give an extra tool and some extra value to the, again, I don't want to go into their pricing, but to the initial investment in creating those genotypes. And they do have to be raw genotypes and not scores, as I mentioned earlier.
Hey folks, have I told you about my all-time favorite seasoning? It's called Pluck. Whether I am grilling steaks, making spaghetti, or wanting to add more flavor to veggies, I reach for Pluck. Pluck is not just a regular seasoning mix. It contains beef organs for added flavor and nutrients. It's tasty and a fun way to add more meat to your meals. You can learn more at eatpluck.com and get a 15% discount by using the code Shaye Wanner. That code is spelled SHAYEWANNER, and I will include the link and the code in the show notes. So then, if producers have already done those scores previously, that data would not play into it? Or, I mean, would they have to completely start from scratch if they've already been doing, say, scores to select replacement heifers? I mean...
Depending on the program that they chose to use through their genomic services provider, sometimes those programs generate scores and discard the genotypes. If that's the case, they will have to re-genotype. If those genotypes are still available, and again, you can find out from that provider, then as long as we can get those genotypes transferred to Top Genomics, which is a relatively simple process coming out of one of the genomics companies or several of the breed associations if you happen to be going that way, then you can transfer those directly and you don't have to re-genotype. There are also some options where you can do both, where if you're starting from scratch with genotyping, you can get scores created plus get the raw genotypes. But again, that's a special request, and you work through your genomics provider to have access to that.
Okay. So while this is predominantly focused on the commercial producer, that seed stock producer is a very key player in making sure that the full process can play through. Have seed stock suppliers been very receptive and supportive of this technology? I mean, what's the response been there?
Yes, it's been really good, and frankly, we talk about a lot of things about selection within groups, but your selection of your seed stock provider is probably your number one decision to start with. Because if they're not moving in the directions that you'd like to go and doing the things, from a technology and sophistication perspective, if they're not doing the things you need, then it's not going to be as effective as a process. And so we work very closely with a large number of seed stock providers. We'll do about 25,000 individual precision matings for seed stock providers this year, and those folks are all in. Once they get the information and get it and use it multi-generations particularly, they begin to say, this is such a great tool for us. We choose the bulls, and you guys help us make sure that they're mated to the right cows. With that in mind, with their confidence in the tool, the idea of moving that decision-making kind of advantage onto their customers has been a simple sell. And a lot of those seed stock providers, if they're already doing that, have been willing to cost share with their bull buyers and say, hey, we will help you in the costs of doing the things you need to do so that when you come to our sale, you absolutely will buy bulls that make you happy. Bulls that will make you satisfied and therefore come back. A satisfied customer comes back, and they understand that very well if they've already been using some genomic technology. And so that kind of marriage relationship between a seed stock provider and commercial purchaser has been very, very easy to put together.
That's always reassuring to hear, and something I enjoy hearing is having those good relationships between seed stock and commercial producers, maybe because of my own background and but also because I just know the importance of it.
When a commercial bull buyer shows up at the sale and he's got a sheet of paper in his hand with a list of 25 bulls to go look at, and walks right to the pens and starts going through them and ends up purchasing off that list, it's the seed stock provider at that point said that was really, really good for our relationship, both today and in the long term.
Well, and I think about it, that saves the commercial producer a lot of time for sorting through bulls and the seed stock supplier for helping them, figure out which bulls might be best, because you can sort out those best ones and it just narrows down that list so much more than when they get the whole catalog and have to start, crossing off these ones or those ones, or for whatever reason, whether that's bloodlines, traits they think they do or don't need, whatever it is. There's a lot to look at.
It's very functional. That part of it's very, very functional. And again, the long-term benefits of, I came here to buy bulls that were going to move me ahead for maternal traits, and then the bulls that they buy actually do, guaranteed. That's the long-term benefit. But the short-term benefit, you're right, it's very, very functional and makes that relationship easier, more straightforward. And again, bull buyers want more confidence. I buy bulls, I want more confidence. People are like, well, people say things like, my bull buyers, they know what they want. And they have some things that they want, but more confidence, it would make them feel even better about the bulls that they're purchasing from you. And again, that's why it's been easy to put together sellers and buyers in this kind of a relationship, to use more data to make better decisions more often.
So commercial producers vary greatly, whether that's in size or goals, etc. Who is this technology truly for? I mean, what type of commercial producer is going to see the most benefit and return on investment from Right Bull?
I get that question a lot, and the answer is I think everyone can. If you're a small producer and you're only purchasing one bull, and that bull is going to affect your herd for the next 15 years or 20 years with replacement females and everything, that your decision is crucial. You have no buffer. And so if that bull does not match your cows or adds to your inbreeding issues or whatever it is, then that decision has really tied you up genetically for the next 3 to 5 years on calves, and again, in your cow herd for 10 to 20. So that becomes a crucial decision for small producers. From a large producer perspective, if you can take a large mob of cows and reduce the variation in the calf crop and make the females easier to choose from when you go ahead and do some evaluation on those, and move you ahead from a 10 to 20 year horizon on a large number of cows, the gross income and net income from that kind of a decision is making those decisions right, that's crucial as well. So I really don't know that this is a small versus a large producer issue, because precision agriculture is here and it's here to stay in other parts of in other agricultural enterprises, and it works in beef production too. And I think it's a game changer from a profit standpoint for either kind of producer.
Well, I think about that as I married into a family that does a lot of precision ag on the crop side, and they're agronomists in that too. And so when I brought up just doing scores to help select replacement females, it was almost a no-brainer, because we're doing precision work on the agronomy side of it. Why wouldn't we try and be more accurate on the cattle side of it as well?
Yeah. And we've been making these matings since 2018, and the proof is in the pudding. The ability to move faster with more security and more uniformity has been a tremendous add-on for seed stock providers. And now as we move into the larger commercial sector, we expect the same kind of results from them. We've already had some wonderful rhetorical conversations with folks who are using it. They really like the idea of it, and once they see the results, they like it even better.
And are you doing this across all breeds?
Yes. Yeah, we currently can go across all breeds. We have less expertise as we moved into Indicus cattle in the south. Particularly, we can account quite a little bit for the Taurus side of those pedigrees, but the large effect gene kind of matrix Indicus cattle is not as well defined, from a science standpoint. And so even though we're making forays into that, looking into that, that is not the strength of the program. The strength would be more Bos Taurus on Bos Taurus. Again, regardless of the breeds you choose to use or the breed combinations that you use in your cows, this tool is available and very functional for anyone who wants to use it. Matter of fact, for certain breeds, there are even different large effect genes than for others. And so the decision-making process can be a little bit different if you're choosing Hereford bulls versus if you're choosing Gelbvieh bulls or Red Angus bulls.
All right. Marty, is there anything else we did not touch on that you want to share with the audience before we move to the final question?
Well, I think we've covered about everything. One thing about the genomics division of Allied Genetic Resources is the flexibility that we have. And I think that's really important too. And if you have specific requests and you say, in my situation, I need something a little bit different. Or I'd look because we're involved in a system and that system requires certain specifications. Can you help us do that? We do genomics projects with some beef on dairy. We do genomic projects with some breed associations. There's a lot of capability in Dr. Tate and Dr. Sachi to do those things. And again, people really love it when we can customize programs because everybody's situation is a little bit different. Environment's a little different. Resources are a little bit different. And even though the core product stays the same, our ability to customize, I think, makes us, even customize between breeds, gives us a lot of flexibility to do what's right for those producers and for the larger beef business.
All right. Well, thank you for adding that in, Marty. Now, my final question for you, kind of a fun one for me again, maybe a little bit of a tougher reflection question for my guests, is if you could go back to your first 5 years in the beef industry, what would you do differently?
This is really tough. My first 5 years in the beef industry, full-time in the beef industry, I did some extension work and things before that, was with the American Simmental Association, starting in about, I think it was 98. And it'd be a little tough to redesign that because when I got to the Simmental Association in 1998, things were awful. And the economics of that business was terrible. Dropping membership, dropping registrations, all kinds of issues. And so we worked very hard over the next 12 years to re-engineer thought processes even to help change the seed stock business and genetics business. So I don't know if I'd change anything except maybe I'd have taken a job that paid a little better for the first 5 years. So maybe I could retire before I was 75 years old. That's my answer.
Okay, well, for those of you listening, I will include links in the show notes to Allied Genetic Resources and Right Bull specifically, so that way you can get in contact with Marty and the company if you have any further questions about what we talked about today. Additionally, there are always a few extra resources in the show notes, so be sure to check those out. Now, remember, the best way to support this podcast and all your other favorite podcasts is to leave a rating and review, and of course, share with a friend who's going to find it valuable. But with that, happy ranching, folks.